Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Saturday and for the Global Azure Bootcamp. So I know that this is a very unique moment for all of us. So typically we have our sessions in Microsoft Office or any other places. But I hope everyone is staying healthy and safe at home. And to all my Muslim friends, Selamat Hari Ramadan. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Aswin, and I'm the Cloud Solution Architect working with ISV partners in the region. Today, I'm going to share with you our approach for AI, in which you can use Azure AI to mine your data. In fact, actually, there are a lot of customers already reaping benefits from their use of AI products. Let me give you a couple of examples. ABB, for example, they actually use Azure AI, specifically connective services and bot service to drive efficient communication across all of their mobile technicians and dispatchers, driving about 20% of increase in customer satisfaction. Another example that I wanted to quickly share as well is TAL. So TAL is the largest life insurer in Australia, and they use Azure Machine Learning to build and deploy models much faster. So this resulted in about them being able to actually review 40 times more cases to ensure that the customers receive the right outcomes. So there are many other examples that in which customers actually benefiting from the Azure AI itself. And so let's dive deeper into our approach with Azure AI and how Microsoft actually built these products. First, it actually all starts with breakthrough research. So Microsoft, especially the Microsoft Research Division, has been in AI research for many years, and Microsoft basically invests in huge or broad spectrum of research, right? From speech, from vision, from to machine translation, machine reading, for example. So in fact, we were the first to reach parity with humans in object recognition, speech recognition, machine translation, and machine reading comprehension. So all of this research has been there for many, many years, and we bake it and test it at scale. So to power some of the Microsoft solution, for example, Office, Xbox, Bing, Dynamics, and many more. So when you actually use Azure AI, you can actually be assured that we actually test it in production. So basically, we eat our own dog food. For example, Azure Machine Learning actually powers about 280,000 of advertisement insight recommendations daily for Bing. Then for connective service, it actually delivers about 6 million personalized experience for the gamers out there. So in order for us to actually have this innovation that to be useful to you, so Microsoft actually we have 3 investment principles that guide our strategy when we do Azure AI. So productive, built for enterprises, and trusted. So the first one is being productive. Basically, we wanted to ensure that the productivity of our developers that use our platform, or even data scientists, right? Any types of developers from any background, whether they are using C# or any open source Python, for example, we wanted to basically empower them to build AI solutions faster. That's the first one, productive. The second one is built for enterprises. So we wanted to enable these AI solutions to be deployed at scale. So not just being able to actually do experiment in your laptop, for example, or building your models in the laptop, but whenever you wanted to serve your customers at scale, how do you actually do that? So built for enterprises, that's the second piece. The third piece is that we also wanted to make sure that the platform are trusted. and you own and control your data. So we wanted to basically make sure anyone or any organization that when you actually build with Azure AI, you have the full confidence knowing that you own and control your data on the platform that basically conform to some of the strictest regulations in or compliance portfolio in the world. So there are actually three main solutions you can build with Azure AI. So the first one is AI apps and agents, where, for example, you wanted to build apps that has the ability to interact with users naturally. For example, you want them to actually, or the bot, right, to actually reply you just like in a human manner, right? Being able to type just like in how you are actually type with normal chat, right? As in your normal chat. So that is the first one, AI apps and agents. Secondly is that knowledge mining. So how you can actually bring your content and then being able to discover some of the insights that you have in your content itself. That's the second piece. And the third piece is if you already built your machine learning models, you are a data scientist, for example, you can actually bring your machine learning models and then being able to deploy or even train in Azure platform itself. For today, what we're gonna explore is on this particular use case, which is knowledge mining. So understanding the value of the content by using AI technologies actually will create more efficiency and understanding of your content. So if you can see in the pictures, right? So imagine if, let's say, you have so much data over there, you have to actually scan, then after that you have to actually discover what the document is all about and to go through all the pages by pages. It's going to take a lot of times for a human or for manual work to actually do all these taggings, for example, to pull the relevant metadata or find patterns, right? So how you can actually solve these issues. And according to research, about 80% of business relevant information actually unstructured, right? So how do you actually solve this problem? So this is where Azure Connective Search comes into the picture to help you in that journey to uncover the insights. So what is Azure Connective Search, right? So it's basically a search as a service. So it is a platform as a service in which you can actually able to actually do search and combining with AI technologies, for example. So being a platform as a service, it helps you with being, you doesn't need to actually create VMs, you just need to really focus on innovation and less time maintaining a complex search solution, for example. So for example, Azure Connective Search with the AI piece of it can do things like, for example, recognizing handwritten text, right? You can also use it to recognize pictures content. Like for example, over here you can see that the pictures is about how a girl is actually throwing a ball into the basketball net, right? But you would see that the AI being able to understand the content itself and then suggest what is the most appropriate caption, for example. Finally, the AI on the connective services being able to actually recognize what is the entities to aggregating properties. Like for example, in this form, right, you can actually you will understand whether is this a name of person or an address or a name of institution, for example, right? So that's the ability of the Azure AI. So connective search is a set of capabilities that's part of a search engine, right? That enables you to easily compose or use cognitive skills to extract knowledge. So this is a high-level architecture of how it actually works. So there are three main processes when you do knowledge mining in Azure Connective Search, for example. So it starts with ingestion. So you have data in any format using different types of Azure store, whether it's SQL Azure, for example, or even blob storage. Then the second step, after you import the data, what do you do with it? It's basically enriching the data. And then the third piece is being able to index the data and then search on the data itself. So if we go deeper dive into the architecture itself, this is the whole pipeline of how it actually works. So what happens over here is like the ingestion layer. So you have your customer's data and then the document cracking. Then after that, you have the turning in the data into or using connective skill to enrich the data itself. You can also use third-party enriches. For example, you might have your own models, AI models, right, that you wanted to actually use. You can also use it. Then from there, after you use the enriches, you can also annotate the documents. So basically tag the documents, right, properly. Then finally, it's the content or the whatever content that you have tagged are being indexed and being able to explore using the Azure Search itself. So first, let's start with the ingestion process, or the process for us to actually import all the structured and unstructured data, and how Azure Connective Search makes that easy. So for document cracking, or basically importing of the data, right, and the identifying of the data. So you can see that there are different types of data sources that are supported out of the box. For example, you can have your data in Azure Blob Storage, in Azure SQL, Cosmos DB, table storage, or Azure Data Lake, for example. Whether if let's say you have PDF files that are supported in blob storage that you uploaded in blob storage, you can have PDF files, HTML, emails, PPTX, and many others that you can see in the slides itself. So after the document cracking or the import of the data, so what do you do with it? So basically enrichment process that I mentioned earlier, right? So the three steps itself. So the second process is to use Azure Connective Service or any third-party enrichers to identify metadata and annotate your documents. So if you are actually using connective skills or connective services, so these are some of the built-in skills that you can use. For example, key phrase extraction from your text, celebrity recognition, landmark detection, for example, printed text recognition, you wanted to do sentiment analysis and all that. So this is part of the connective services itself. So you can use connective services to actually train it, or basically annotate or enrich your, or detect the data itself. But if let's say you have your own custom skills, for example, you wanted to do synonyms, you wanted to do things like content moderation, you wanted to have your own custom models that being able to verify certain products and all that, right? You can actually use custom skills as well and plug into as part of the enrichment process. So these are some of the built-in skills with multiple languages that are supported, whether it's English and many others language that's supported by the connective services. So NLP, image processing, utilities, whether you wanted to like merge that, the split of text and all that stuff, you can actually do that with the using multiple languages. Then after the enrichment has been done, so we have gone through the ingestion process, right? Then after that, the enrichment process. Then the third piece is basically the exploration process. You index and then being able to explore. So let's take a look at one of the sample or demo of how connective search are in action. So I'm not sure whether you guys knows about this picture or the background of this picture itself. So this picture is when it occurred during the 22nd November 1963 at about 12:30 p.m. So President John F. Kennedy was assassinated while riding in a motorcade in Dallas during a campaign visit. So one of his killer or his killer was actually a Lee Harvey Oswald himself. Right? So in about year 2017 and year 2018, what happened is that the U.S. government, they actually released a bunch of data about the investigation papers on the JFK assassination. The first batch that was released about 34,000 pages, and there were subsequent a few more pages that they actually released in 2017 and 2018 itself. So what happened is that in the next demo that I'm going to show is the JFK files demo, in which you would see that the Microsoft team or the product team actually created this demo, and in which they actually pump in all the some of the data, and then being able to surface all the data that lying as part of the files itself, and they created this portal, right? So let's take a look at the demo quickly. So let me open up the JFK files. So this is the JFK demo website. So you guys can actually just go to jfkdemo.azureWebsites.net, for example, right? So what I'm gonna do is that I'm not gonna search everything. So I'm just gonna click on this search, and it will return all the results over here. So over here on the left, you can see after this website was built using azsearch.js. Later, we're gonna see how we can actually quickly build a page similar to this. But you can see the text over here. The tagging over here is that you can see the whole document was mainly about John F. Kennedy, CIA. So you have FBI. So it's pretty secretive document. So what happens over here is that you can look at some of the documents or the images that has been exposed over here. So let me just quickly do a search of the murderer, right? So his name is Oswald. So I'm just gonna search for Oswald. So it's gonna return me all the result that's related to Oswald. And being part of the connective services, right, is that it allows you to it scans, it does the OCR scanning, for example, into the images as well, right? So you can see that it recognizes handwritten as well, whether it's typed. Also, it actually recognizes the Oswald name. This is the Oswald pictures, for example, right? And these are the rest of the documents. Let's see the second pages, for example. So let's say I click into the page, so you can see where is the Oswald name being tagged, for example, right? So in the second page, what you would realize is that as I scroll down, right, is that you would see, hey, instead of Oswald, is actually GP floor was tagged as well. Why is GP floor was tagged over here? So what happens over here, if you still remember as part of the enrichment process just now, is that you can create custom skill, and CIA actually use the secret name or this synonym, what we call, or cryptonym, right? GP floor is actually Oswald. So they created a synonym custom skill, and then they basically match that GP floor is Oswald, right? So that's that. Then at the same time, over here is that I also wanted to kind of like showcase, like for example, this picture. So if I open up this picture, is that it uses the computer vision skill to understand that, hey, this is Oswald. They know that this is Oswald, and then creating a caption as well, like Lee Harvey Oswald posing for the camera. So this is the whole caption that being presented. And then what's the content inside the OCR skill inside of the new basically translate as a New Orleans, for example, right? Another way that really great about this sample or the azsearch.js is that there's this piece in which you can do entity linking, right? So whenever you have Oswald name appears, right? When I click on this particular button, is that I can see that the name is linked to Lee Harvey, which is his name, for example. It links to Silver Duran as well, for example, right? So who's Silver Duran? So let's say I click on Silver Duran. So maybe I just search for Silver Duran. Right. So when you search for Silver Duran, so you would see that how it actually links to different types of data format altogether. So this is how so Silver Duran, you can see that over here, if let's say you read through the documents, right? She is actually linked to a Mexican consulate, and she is basically the Oswald connection in Cuba, right? So that was what the entity linking actually helps over here. Another thing that I wanted to quickly showcase is that there's so many data over here, right? How do they actually manage all of this data? So the funny thing is that if let's say you go and search for this keyword platform, right? So let's see. So let's open up. So you can see these documents, and the interesting documents over here is this piece. SQL Server is the platform for the working documents, right? So I think in basically in this document, you can see that they were actually using it. To, yeah, yeah, there you go. So and the funny thing is also you can see that the architecture of how they actually built all these SQL Server back in 1998, for example, right? So they are using telephone line, they are using ADSN, using servers, workstation, chat printer, and all that to actually surface all this data. Okay, so let's go back to the slides that we have. Oh yeah, so at the same time, I mean, the JFK files, I mean, remember that I mentioned to you about the custom skills. You can also build a custom skills that actually link to your KB, right? Your knowledge base. That basically maybe there are certain keywords that you wanted to surface up as um, um, more information about that person, particular person, and all that stuff. You can actually do that as part of the custom skills as well. So this was the kind of like the architecture, right, of how the JFK files were being built, or the in terms of the architecture of the website just now. So you have Azure storage. Basically, they dump all the documents into Azure storage as part of the ingestion process. Then you have the content extraction or the document cracking. Then they use the OCR, computer vision, entities linking. Then at the same time, they have built the custom skills as well, which is the cryptonym that I mentioned. Then after that, they surface it up as a search index, and you exploit it. So this is in the proper format, right? So you have blob storage, unstructured data, all the way to the indexes itself, right? Using different types of technologies or connective services to enrich the JFK documents. So without further ado, I think let's quickly create one, right? So in this demo, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna share with you how to actually do index a structured data and then index a unstructured data as well. Then after that, how we can actually switch through it, for example. So I think before I actually get started, is that the custom skills. So I just want to quickly showcase to you guys in terms of the custom skills. So these documents over here, so there's this, so how they actually build the synonym custom skill is, what happened over here is you can see that there's this JSON file that returns the, if let's say whenever you have a cryptonym called AE, what does it translate to be, right? QBox, CIA, for example, and Limoto, yeah. In the cryptonym linker, so it actually read all the JSON file, and then they expose this as a web API, and I have already deployed it as an Azure function in Azure, right? So so basically, you have the web API response over here, the linker, and then web API skill response, then return the result. So let's quickly look at the Postman. For example, if let's say I wanted to test against the Azure function. So I have over here my my Azure functions with the cryptonym, for example, and I do a post request. So this is in the body. So like for example, if let's say I pass the KU word and QDELF, then after that, what it would return, right? So just click send. So you would see that the Azure function actually returns the data itself, right? So KU means division of the CIA, QDELF, possibly Hall Hendricks, for example. So after this, what happened is that you can actually just integrate it as part of the custom skills inside the skill set inside the JFK Azure search, for example. So for today, we are not gonna do that. But what happens over here is that we're gonna build something that's from scratch, so that you can actually imagine how you can actually build Azure Connective Search quickly and easily as well. So let me open up my Azure. So if let's say I wanted to get started to build a connective search. So how do I actually start with that is that I could just go to Azure Connective Search, just click create. And then of course, resource groups, I already created this resource group earlier. So for example, I gave a name to it. So it's gonna end up with like my MYGAV2020.azure.search.net example. So I'm gonna choose the nearest data center to my users, for example. Okay, so pricing tier, this is where something that I wanted to share with you guys also is that there's free tier, basic, standard to high density and storage optimized. But what differentiates them is mainly in this layer, okay? How many indexes that you can actually create, how many indexes that you can have, what's the storage per partition, for example, as well, right? At the same time, of course, you have the how many search unit, replicas, and partition. So that affects your performance whenever you do search queries. For example, if you have large amount of data, of course, you have to actually upgrade it to a larger tier. So I'm just gonna choose the select over here. So this is where the next you can actually choose the replication and how many partitioning that you wanted to do. So in the replicas itself is that right now by default they actually choose one. What happened is that if let's say you wanted to have 99.9 availability for read operation, you have to have at least 2 replicas. Then after that, write application with 3 or more replicas, for example, right? So since we are just doing a development or testing, that's fine. For partitioning, what you can do is that if let's say you have a lot of documents, again, you wanted to divide those documents according to partitions and all that, you just scale it accordingly. Okay, just you can review and create, but just like any cooking show, I've already created it earlier. So so let me go back to my resource group over here. So earlier on, so I already created a connective services, and this is Azure Connective Service, right? So for the first demo is that what I'm gonna do is to index structured data. So so when you go into the search service over here, so you can see the important things that I want you to focus on is on this piece, right? So this is your usage like the monitoring indexes, data sources, and the skill set. So we don't have anything just yet. It's pretty empty. And then on the right side, this is the properties of your connective search. You have your partition, search units, replication, for example, and then importantly is the URL. Okay, so firstly, I'm gonna do the first phase. Remember there are 3 stages, right? So there is ingestion, enrichment, and then exploration. So the ingestion itself, I'm gonna ingest from a sample. So in this sample itself, there are 2 samples that you can use. Firstly is the SQL, and then the hotel sample as well. So I'm gonna use the SQL sample. Since this is a structured data, I'm not gonna add in enrichment just yet, right? So that later in the another example, then only we will do these connective skills. Okay, then you might be wondering, there's this word called optional. Then why do I need to use Azure Search, right? So for example, if let's say you have a website that does a lot of searching. So for example, property search website, or you have a listing website for products, right? Mudah, iProperty type of car list, type of those kind of search, right? So instead of you actually returning the result directly from the SQL database, you can actually return it from index or a search engine, in this case Azure Connective Search. So that basically remove or reduce the impact to your database, as your database typically would do a lot of read, write, and update as well. So whenever you are doing a lot of search, so try to make use of Azure Search, so that since it already indexes the data, right? So I'm just gonna skip. So over here, I'll explain. So what are these all about, right? So what happens over here is that it detects the fields inside the SQL database. Then it showcases all the fields. Then after that, you basically tell the indexer whether what do you want it to do with this, right? Whether you wanted to retrieve it, filter it, sort, face table, or searchable. So what are these, all of these fields, right? So for example, retrievable, right? So retrievable in SQL language means select clause. So you are able to actually select it whenever you do the search. That's retrievable. Secondly is filter, right? So in terms of filter, so this is basically where, right, in SQL. Then sortable is order by. Face table is basically group by. you have searchable having clauses, right? Having. So then you have analyzer, different engines that we actually do use to actually analyze the terms that are inside the text itself. And then suggester is basically basically making the field to be able to be to have a suggestion. So for example, as we type, right, or the users are typing, um, the connective search will actually, or the Azure search will actually suggest the content itself for a better user experience, for example. So I'm gonna let it be, right? So I'm not gonna change anything. So I just click next, create an indexer. Okay, so um, over here, since we are using sample, so all this grayed out. But what happens over here is that because index actually indexes your content regularly, right? Or you wanted to index once, hourly, daily, or custom. So just to give you example of when do you actually do index. So, or you would see there are certain websites that their index are actually out of date. So for example, if let's say you go to some of the search pages, right? When they actually return the results, they are able to actually return the result. But when you click on the detail page, for example, they might actually show that this item has been sold or doesn't exist anymore. It's because the search pages are being served by the search engine or the Azure Connected Search. Then after that, the detailed page are being served by the database, right? Because database being the single source of truth over there. So depending on your business logics, so how you wanted to actually schedule or do the indexes, it depends on you, right? So I'm just gonna click submit. Okay, so you can see that there's no skill set because we didn't apply any connective services. So there's this data source appeared. So indexes. So basically right now it's doing the indexing of the database from the database itself. So if let's say I click into it, so you will see that it's still in progress. So let's wait a few minutes for it to finish the indexing. Um, if you guys wanted to programmatically do the indexing, for example, you can also actually call the API, and then always this is the indexer definition itself, right? So the name of the data source, the skill set, what is the target index, for example, and all that stuff. So let me just quickly refresh and see, okay, so everything is success. So let me just quickly go and into the index again. Okay, sorry. So maybe I just click on Search Explorer. So make sure that you select the right index over here. So I'm going to search for Seattle, for example. Right. So it basically returns all the content that's related to Seattle, right? So you see that the city, the Seattle, and all that. So next thing is that what I'm gonna quickly do or search over here is what I wanna do is I wanted to create the sample website, right? A search website quickly. So the product team or the connective search team, right? They actually created this sample search application that you can do. Um, Otherwise, what I will do is I'm just gonna go to the index, click on this button called create search app, for example. Of course, the first thing I'm gonna do is to enable the course. So don't do this at home where I allow everything. But let me quickly do that. So I'm just gonna create the search app. So they're gonna walk you through a wizard like UI over here. So so this is the individual result. So for example, maybe the title itself, I'm gonna change it to For example, maybe the unit, then the description, for example, right? Next thing is, so this is the sidebar. Okay, let's say this is the filter. If let's say you wanted to filter certain things like type, status, days on market, and all that stuff. Next is, this is where as you are typing, then they will actually do the suggestion. So I'm just gonna select everything, for example, and I'll just download it. So you would see that there's this easy search .html file. What I'm gonna do is then I'm gonna go back to my website over here. So earlier on I already created this Azure website, Azure App Service. Oh, okay, so there's nothing here yet. So I'm just gonna dump the file that I have created just now. Sorry, that I have downloaded just now. So into this, oops, I'm gonna FTP into it, doing old style of deployment. So I have over here my hosting start.html, copy paste the easy search index.html, for example. So let me quickly refresh the website. There you go. So you have the website. When I click search, you will see that this is the result that has been returned from the search indexes. If let's say I do things like, for example, apartment, so you would see there's suggestion that comes into the picture, and then the field name, and after that the data itself, right? There you go. So this is how you can actually quickly create a search page by using the easysearch.js, for example, right? So let's go to the second demo, right? So just now we have seen how to actually index your structured data. So good for creating a search page like this instead of hitting your database every time. Secondly is that index the unstructured data. So what happens over here is I already have some of the samples that I already uploaded to Azure Blob. That is a HTML file, PNG file, and all that. So for example, let's say I open up Scott Guthrie picture. So this is Scott Guthrie picture, Satya's picture, right? Even PPTX file as well, right? So I already uploaded it. Then let's see how do you actually use connective services or connective search over here to index the data. So if I go back to my website, to my Azure storage, so you can see my Azure storage over here. So let's see, so over here, so these are all the files that are already uploaded. What happens next is that, let's do this. We again remember the 3 steps: ingestion, enrichment, and then exploration. So I'm gonna do the import of data. I'll select the Azure Blob Storage, for example, and data store name, Azure Blob. I'll just give it a name. So we wanted to basically extract the data and the metadata as well. So for example, you have the properties inside your image and all that. We wanted to extract all that data also. So choose the existing connection, for example. Okay, next at the okay, so this is where you attach the connective service. So there's feed here. There's something that I created earlier, my GAB AI. So free, of course, you would hit the limit, for example, but it's good for you to actually try out. So under the add enrichment, So I tick on this field called enable OCR and merge all content into a field, right? Into a new field. So what happened is that I'm just gonna select everything, right? Basically extract people's name, organization name, key phrases, generate text, identify celebrities and all that stuff. So I'm gonna use the OCR or the connective services to actually extract all this stuff. So if let's say you wanted to save all these results to a knowledge store, you can also do that, but I'm not gonna do that right now. I click next. Over here, this is where I'm gonna change a bit of stuff. Um, okay, so suggest a name. I'm just gonna remember that whenever you do the search, right? So there will be a suggestion. So there's search mode that it supports. There's only analyzing and fixed matching that it supports right now. So the rest is what I'm gonna do is that I'm just gonna search for merge content. I'm gonna enable that. Everything I wanted to be able to retrieve. Then the people, organization, location, key phrases, for example, I'm gonna do the suggestion as well. Then the rest, whether do I want to actually filter it, I can do that also. Right. So it doesn't matter for this demo, for today's demo, but I mean, if let's say you are building the website later, so I think you have to specify those fields. Okay, let me just go to the indexer. So just now, this is the new indexer that we have created, Azure Blob Indexer. So let's see. Let's wait for a couple of minutes, right? So it's going through the blob storage to index all that content that we have uploaded just now. Mm. Okay, so you would see some warnings. You would see there are some warnings. For example, maybe there are operations that they does enrichment that they couldn't do iteration, for example, over non-array, right? Like all these like celebrities API, they couldn't go through some of the images and all that. So you will see all of these warnings, for example, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't do the indexes already. But you can fix that also. If you, let's say you are building custom skills and all that, but I'm not gonna touch anything at all. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm just gonna do the search explorer. I will do the index. Okay, make sure that I choose this right indexes. So I'm just gonna do return everything, right? So while it's searching, it will actually go and search all of the data that has been indexed just now. It's taking a bit of time. Okay, cool. So you will see that all this has been returned. So let me just use a JSON viewer to see whether to make it something that you guys can see clearly. So we have about 20 data over here, right? So you would see that there's image, which is the satya.jpg. You will see satya txt. You will see these are the content that they manage to actually extract from the text file. The one that I wanted, this is PDF. The one that I wanted to show you guys is Scott Guthrie's one. Where is Scott Guthrie? So maybe I try to find Scott Guthrie and see. Let's see. Can I? No. Or maybe I'll just quickly search for Scott. I got 3. So let me do that again. So you will see that this is under the picture, right? So the Guthrie.jpg that I shown you, or maybe I show you again. So this is the picture itself, right? So what happens over here is that it understands that the organization. So it doesn't really detect the tag of the people, but it knows the organization. Whether is there any key phrases that it managed to extract. Then after that, this is the image caption. So you will see that these are some of the objects that it detects in the image, but you would see that the text over here, Scott Guthrie is standing in a room, right? So it has 83% of confidence level, and who are the celebrity over here. So in mismatch, then after that, create the caption. So you can see that over here, the Azure Connective Search being able to actually extract a lot of types of data that that we have. So I have about 3 more minutes here. So we have seen how to actually index unstructured structured data, unstructured data, and then apply connective skills into it. Just to give you guys some of the, for example, one of the partners, ISOTs, right? ISOTs contract management, they actually use Azure Search to do a compliance workflow where whenever there's a contract that being signed and all that, right? They will actually go and detect whether is there any GDPR risk, is there any clauses inside the documents that need to be paid attention to and all that. So those are using custom skills. And then of course they are actually using the organization as part of the Azure Connective skill to um, to extract the organization entities, for example. Um, you guys can actually go to this knowledge mining solution accelerator. So the samples are there, right? Teaches you how to do indexes, custom skills, and creating the website that I've shown you just now earlier on. So you can go to aka.ms/km solutions. So there's a bootcamp as well that you guys can actually join. Just go to connective search documentation aka.ms/srch docs. Otherwise, you guys can always contact me or contact the Azure research team. So that's it from me today. So what we have seen right now, just now, was that how you can actually use Azure AI to do knowledge mining. Then after that, use connective search to do search indexes over the unstructured and the structured data and unstructured data, for example, and apply the enrichment process over there. So this is my LinkedIn. You guys can add me over in the LinkedIn. So thank you very much for joining me today. The next session is gonna start soon, so you guys can head over to the next session. And please stay safe and duduk di rumah. Thank you very much.